Okay, we're going to give this a try. Having trouble here with the resolution, but hopefully it's not too pixely or blurry. So this video is going to be dealing with plagiarism and citations. This is something we cover basically in 7th through 12th grade. And we do it before every major project that's going to require them, and at the very least, especially in 7th grade, we don't really get to those types of projects until maybe their students are freshmen, but there are certain situations where I definitely want students to be aware of what the risks and regulations are, the rules and regulations of plagiarism, what they are in the building, outside of the building, and just generally wherever you're going to be. You should know these. So plagiarism, first of all, is, some people think it means copy and paste. It's not just copying and pasting material. The definition of plagiarism is really when you take someone else's work or someone else's project, whether it's words, this could be an image, it could be, an image from, let's say, Google that's very, very common. It could be a video from YouTube. It could be a song that's very popular. People think that they can borrow music. When you do that, if you do not provide credit, okay, back to the author, the creator of that piece, whatever it is, then really what you're doing is you're plagiarizing in some ways. Now, plagiarism is certainly more related to the written word, but it's theft because you have not given credit to the person or persons who are the authors or creators of whatever that piece is. So, first of all, understanding that definition and knowing that it goes well beyond just the written word is important. In this class, it's, we deal mostly with the written word. You're doing a research paper and you need to borrow information from another source. However, if we do a presentation or, you know, maybe you're putting a PowerPoint together or something like that, and that comes to play in this class as well as others, then images and music and videos are very common. They're commonly just taken, and we don't think anything else of it. And really, they all require a type of citation in order to provide that credit back to the author. Um, and students, a lot of times, they want to just put a URL down, and they think, that covers me. This tells where I got this information from. No, URLs are not proper citations. In my class especially, it would not satisfy the requirements, and I would still probably give a second chance, but I would still consider this either to be fixed or it would be a plagiarized piece with just the URL. URLs are changing all the time. Information on websites are changing, so you go to that URL and you find out that what I took from there isn't there anymore. So we got to do better than that. The other thing I try and promote is that other teachers within the buildings also follow the same rules. They learn this. If students can learn this in my class, then they should be able to employ it in history class and science class, etc. So, just because they leave English doesn't mean that all of the rules go out the window. So, now that we know that, I guess the second thing I want to talk about in terms of plagiarism is the schools, uh, our school's policy. Okay, the school's policy in the handbook, which everyone has to sign off on at the beginning of the year, is really written as a two-part policy. The first part is it's an automatic fail of the project if you are caught, um, and you are, accused of plagiarism, and this can be proven. Again, most of the time, I make sure that students they can't use that excuse. Oh, I didn't know, or I just, forgot, whatever the excuse might be. We go over this 7 through 12 every year at least once, most of the time more, especially in the upper grades. But also, I give second chances usually. If I see something on a rough draft, first draft, and I say, this needs to be cited, it's going to be in there. And most of the time, when someone gets, nailed for plagiarism, it's because they didn't fix what I had asked them to fix. It's kind of like saying, listen, you're going to be in some trouble if you don't do this. And if they just don't, then, I guess I don't feel too bad about it. So it's an automatic fail in the project. That's a first offense. If you get caught doing it a second time, according to the school policy, this is a fail for that class for the entire semester. That semester is gone. That's a fail. That's according to the policy. Now, be aware that, the administration as well as the teacher and, everyone kind of gets together to talk about this stuff, and, this might not be followed word for word at times. There is some leeway given to the administration to make decisions. However, this is the school policy as it is written down. So students should be very aware that this isn't something that is taken lightly, and I don't take it lightly in my class, because we figure out how to solve, to be able to use borrowed resources and do it properly within papers, to find success that way. Because I don't like the plagiarism being labeled as copy and paste, because students go along thinking that borrowing information is a bad thing, and it's not. I mean, when you're talking about research, that's exactly what research is. It is the finding and borrowing of information of credible sources to build around a thesis, an idea that you want to support. And it's much stronger to be able to borrow, say, from Dr. Who and support your ideas, than to just say, so and so, my buddy down the street said this. The credibility, the name behind it provides a lot of weight to your ideas. So borrowing work is a good thing. You just have to do it the right way. So that being said, plagiarism kind of solved and out of the way. How do you do this? Well, citations. This is where the real lesson comes into play. There are two types of citations that I focus on in 7th through 12th high school. So the first one is known as an in-text citation, okay? By the time you get to college and maybe into high school, you'll hear this more so as parenthetical citation. They mean the same thing, okay? Parenthetical just comes from the idea that we are going to do this by using parentheses. So parenthetical and in-text are the same thing. What is an in-text citation? Well, there's two types. The most common in-text citation is when you use a direct quote in, say, a paper or a PowerPoint, some sort of project that you're doing. You're taking it word for word from another source, maybe from another person, during an interview or something. You have not changed any of that quote, and you copy it exactly as it came into your paper. The rule here is that around that, you have to make sure that you put quotes. At the end of the direct quote, you are going to put parentheses. Now, I'm going to leave a question mark here for now. That doesn't mean a question mark goes in there. We're going to come back to this later. The question mark is there now because this is the citation. What information goes in there? Okay, and this is easier explained when we get to a further portion here, further along. So I'm going to kind of move ahead. So the direct quote, you put it in quotations, and then you have your parentheses with your actual citation. This is the citation, okay, to be filled in. Now, B, I said there was two. The second one, this is where students make the most mistakes. They've heard this before. If you borrow work, copy and paste, you have to cite it. Okay, well, B is paraphrased information. Now, what does that mean? Students will often say, well, I put it in my own words. I don't have to cite it. That's not necessarily true. Paraphrased information is when you read a source. Say you went online and you checked out an article and you read through the whole thing. You got the gist of what was being said. And then you went back And in your own words, you wrote information into your paper based on that source. Technically, that's not your information still. It is the information that came from a different source. Because you put it in your own words or changed up the order, you don't have to do the quotations anymore. It's not a direct quote at this point. But you still have to put in a citation at the end. A lot of the times, this is going to come into play at the end of a paragraph because you have stated what you wanted to say in that paragraph, supported your topic sentences, you had your conclusion, but it was all based on some other source's information. Again, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means that you borrowed it from a credible resource, hopefully. And so you're going to cite it again. Again, I'm going to put the question mark here because, what goes in there, we're going to get to that. So, this is number one. This is the in-text citation. And this question mark relates to our number two, the second type of citation that we focus on, and that is called our works cited page. Okay. So the works cited page. Now, a lot of people will look at this and say, well, that's a bibliography. Well, there's a difference between a works cited page and a bibliography. Bibliographies usually, in the professional writing world, they're going to include every resource that a person looked at during their research, during the writing of their thesis, during the writing of their book. If they looked at a source, it's going to go into the bibliography. A works cited page, okay, doesn't quite go that far. It focuses on the sources used. Okay, sources used in your paper. So if you looked at something but you didn't use it, you don't have to include it in the works cited page. It's not going to hurt you if you do, but that's the difference between the two. So, what can we learn about the works cited page? Well, let me flip over here. The works cited page, first of all, should be on a page of its own. Okay? If your paper was 4 pages long and it was rolling on to the 5th page, but it only went into, say, a quarter of the page, you don't put your works cited page just below that conclusion paragraph. You scroll all the way down, enter all the way down to a new page, and in the center of the page, you're going to write works cited, okay? And just like a title, it's like the title of that page. It's your works cited page, and it's by itself. And this is going to list citations which follow MLA format for this class. And there's very specific rules. Now, as we have talked in class, we have this kind of cheat sheet that we can use in order to follow, what comes first, what's next, I forget all the time. I don't know all the rules. That's why I need this cheat sheet, because there's so many different ones. But, I think it's usually like the author's last name, comma, first name, period, and then it could be the title of the article, which is, I think, in quotation marks, and then the title of the website, which is italicized. And students say, well, what if I, forget a comma or a period? Is that a problem? Yeah, it is a problem because this is the format that needs to be followed. What I then back up and say is, you don't have to memorize all of this stuff. That's why we use the cheat sheet. The easiest way to do this is find an online citation creator like the one we use is citationmachine.com. Okay, you can choose what kind of citation you're doing. Is it an online article? Is it a novel? Okay, a book? Is it a video, an online video like YouTube? Is this an encyclopedia? You can choose that and find your way through, and they will create the citation for you, and you're going to put it into your works cited page. All you need is to find the information in that source, whether it was a book. You have to find the author's name. If it was an online website, sometimes you can manually plug in the URL, and it'll spit out this citation for you, which is great. Just make sure, and I tell students this all the time too, make sure that whatever you're using, if it's citationmachine.com or EasyBib, that you are sure or confident that those websites are up to date on the MLA standards, because they do change every few years. And your teacher should kind of keep you in the loop on that. But Citation Machine is the one we would use. So once you have your works cited sources, or excuse me, your citations done, couple rules to remember. As you go down the page and you're listing them, they should be in alphabetical order. And you don't always know this, what order it's going to be in until you have them all here. But you're on a computer most of the time. This is easy. You just copy and paste them back in the right order. Copy, cut, paste. And get them in the order based on what is the first entry. So if, the author's name was in this entry and his last name was Thomas, okay, comma, Bill, period. Okay, and who knows what else is after this. We're looking at the T. That's what's most important in terms of alphabetical. Now, one thing to note, if this was not a book, for example, let's say it was an online article, sometimes they don't list the author's name. Okay, Citation Machine will create the citation for you, but it might not start with a person's name. It might start with whatever is next available. So let's say it was, I'm just thinking of magazines here, Time, okay, as magazine. Maybe that was what was coming up next, okay, and it was italicized. If this is the first thing in the article, now obviously I'm looking at alphabetical order as well, but if this is what's in the article, remember how we were talking about those question marks before? It is this that we are focused on to go into our parentheses when we are doing our in-text citations. So if I borrowed a direct quote from this source, okay, maybe it was a journal in a magazine, I know that it was written by Bill Thomas. I'm going to put his last name into this parenthesis. That's how I cite this. If I'm paraphrasing information then somewhere down the line, and there is no author, it's just the title of the magazine, that's the first thing here. And to be honest, it would probably be the title of the article, okay, because you can usually find that. But sometimes, things they're gone, they're missing. If this is what is here first, then this is what goes into that parenthesis on the other, on the paraphrased or direct quote, whatever it is. Most commonly, you run into this in online research because students like to use the internet for things. Authors are not available, so it might be a article, title of the article. If that wasn't there, okay, maybe it was the title of the website title. And you just slowly go down the list. Whatever it is the first thing that is there in that entry is what you use in the parentheses. So where does the connection take place once you're all finished? Well, someone else reads your paper for the first time, and they see, they come to a paragraph and they see that you borrowed a direct quote. And you're like, oh, that's an interesting direct quote. Well, I see that the author, okay, the credit is given to this Thomas person. Well, that's not a lot of information. If they scroll to the end of your paper, they're going to see all of your works cited page entries listed here. And there might be 5, 6, 7 or more, and they can find Thomas. Well, included in this entry, they can see that, okay, his first name was Thomas, or is Bill, but that's not really the biggest thing. They're going to find, if it was a website, they're going to find the website title. If it was a website, they're going to find the article title. They're going to find the publishing date, the date that it was put online, the date that you took it from the internet and decided to borrow it. Sometimes information that is included, includes like volumes, editions, depending on whether you're dealing with journals or magazines, quarterlies, that sort of thing. So a person can look from your paper in text citations into the works cited page, and really, if they wanted, they could use the information in that entry to go out and find the first-hand, the actual document that you used. The ones that kind of update themselves and might be tricky are online articles at times, because they might not be there for only a couple days and then they're gone. But they can still kind of trace their way back, and if they wanted to see the actual source, they could do so. So the works cited page works hand in hand with the in-text citations. And how they work, direct quotes, whatever it is word for word. You're not allowed to change it. You put it in quotations. At the end, you make your citation. Paraphrased, you don't need the quotes, but you still need the citation. Okay, what goes in there? Whatever is first in your works cited entry.